You realize that death, too, is not to be feared. It is part of the same flow you've learned to trust. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. So you live each moment as if it were your last, fully, consciously, without waste. You stop saying someday, you say now. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You act, you live, because you finally understand. The present moment is not a doorway to life. It is life, and when you live fully here, eternity touches you in every breath. You begin to teach this truth, not with words, but through presence, a calm so real that others feel safe near you, a kindness so steady that it heals without trying. You've become the kind of soul who can sit in silence with another and say everything without saying a word, and that is mastery. You understand now that all the Stoics were pointing toward the same truth, that wisdom is not in philosophy alone, but in how one lives, the strength to endure, the courage to be honest, the compassion to forgive, the serenity to let go. This is the art of living, and so you practice it daily, in small moments, in washing dishes, in waiting in lines, in holding a friend's trembling hand. You realize greatness was never about grand acts. It was always hidden in the ordinary, the mundane, the quiet choices that no one sees. You've learned that life is not about becoming more, but becoming less restless, less attached, less afraid, until what remains is truth, naked, simple, unshakable. And when others ask, what is the secret? You smile gently and answer, accept everything, expect nothing, act with love, because that is the essence of it all. Not control, not certainty, not escape, just presence, rooted in virtue, guided by wisdom, softened by love. And one day, as you watch the sunset, the same sun that has risen and fallen over every joy, every pain, every rebirth of your soul, you whisper to yourself, this was enough. The light fades, the world grows quiet again. But now, the silence feels like home. You breathe one last time, and there is no fear, because, you lived with courage, you endured with grace, you loved without reservation. You became the peace you once sought, and in that final breath, you realize you were never learning how to live. You were remembering that you already knew, that wisdom, strength, and serenity were never found. They were awakened, and now, as the sun sinks below the horizon, you close your eyes and become one with it, light returning to light, still, timeless, infinite. And though the world will move on, somewhere in the hearts of those you've touched, your presence will remain, not as words, but as a feeling, a whisper, a calm reminder in their storms, that they too can rise, that they too can endure, that they too can become unshakable, because peace, once found in one soul, never dies. It spreads, quietly, endlessly. You've realized that your purpose is not to change the world, but to be uncorrupted by it, to remain gentle in a place that teaches hardness, to remain true in a world addicted to illusion. You carry your philosophy quietly, like a flame sheltered by your palms, protecting it, not flaunting it. You remember Seneca's words, sometimes even to live is an act of courage, and you see that courage every day, in the tired faces of those still trying, in the quiet endurance of souls who refuse to give up. You realize you are no different from them. We are all fragments of the same whole, trying to remember our unity. You begin to teach, not through lectures, but through living. You show strength by listening. You show patience by pausing. You show wisdom by admitting you don't have every answer, because you've learned that truth is not owned. It's lived, moment by moment, breath by breath. The days pass. You grow older, not weaker, but deeper. The lines on your face become maps of your endurance. The gray in your hair is the ash of old fires survived. And yet, your eyes shine brighter than ever, because within them is a calm that no storm could take. You have made peace with impermanence. You have learned to love without needing forever, to give without holding, to live without clinging. Everything you own now fits inside your heart. Everything you lost taught you something eternal. You remember the nights when you begged for peace. Now peace lives with you, like an old friend. You no longer pray for an easy path. You pray for endurance, for clarity, for grace, because you know life is not to be conquered, but understood, not to be controlled, but accepted. You start to laugh again, not the laughter of distraction, but of release. You laugh at how serious you once were, chasing meaning, fighting fate. Now you see the beauty of surrender, the power in humility, the serenity in not knowing. You wake before the sun. The air is still, heavy with promise. You sit quietly, not out of habit, but out of reverence, for this moment, for the simple fact that you are here. You breathe in the weight of the world, out the peace you've made with it. There was a time you searched for meaning. Now you live it. Every breath, every step, every word is your philosophy in motion. You've become what you once sought, a steady presence in an unsteady world. You no longer preach strength, you embody it. You no longer talk about peace, you are it. And the world begins to notice, not through your words, but through your silence. People come to you now, not because you promise answers, but because you listen without judgment. You carry the kind of calm that makes others remember their own. You realize the highest form of wisdom is compassion. The Stoics taught that virtue is the only true good. And now, you understand why. Virtue isn't a rule, it's a rhythm, a quiet alignment between who you are and how you act. It's patience when you want to react. It's forgiveness when your pride aches. It's humility in your victories and grace in your losses. You've learned that wisdom without kindness is arrogance in disguise. So you walk gently now, not to be noticed, but to do no harm. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one, and that is all you seek to do." You rise each morning, not chasing greatness, but goodness. Not recognition, but integrity. You help quietly. You love without demand. You give without keeping score. And though few may ever know your name, your presence lingers in hearts you've touched, without even trying. This is legacy, not statues, not followers, but ripples of quiet goodness that move unseen through time. You begin to see the world differently now, not as broken, but as becoming, not as cruel, but as lost, searching just as you once were. You no longer resent those who hurt you. You pity their blindness and wish them peace, because you know now, people act from pain. They project what they cannot process. They hurt others because they cannot face their own suffering, and so you don't return anger with anger. You meet it with stillness, like a calm sea reflecting a storm, untouched, unshaken. Epictetus said, "When someone does you wrong, immediately consider what good or harm he thought would come of it. When you understand that, you will pity him instead of being angry." You've learned to live that truth. You don't take things personally anymore, because nothing is truly personal, only human, and this understanding has set you free. You walk through crowds now and see pain everywhere, hidden behind laughter, buried beneath pride. You see people running, not toward dreams, but away from themselves, and your heart softens, because you were once them, so you smile more. You speak less. You offer small kindnesses with no expectation. You find beauty in simplicity, a cup of tea, a deep breath, the warmth of the sun. On a tired face, you start seeing miracles in ordinary things, because you've stopped waiting for the extraordinary. You've stopped trying to escape life. You've started living it, slowly, intentionally, fully. You no longer see time as an enemy, but as a teacher. You honor it by being here, now, no longer lost in yesterday, no longer anxious for tomorrow, just present in the infinite breath of this moment. You understand now what Marcus meant when he wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." So you guard your thoughts like sacred ground. You no longer let every worry plant its roots in your mind. You choose what grows there. You tend to it with patience, with love, and what grows within you now is peace. Steady, unwavering peace. It's not that your life is without pain. It's that you no longer suffer unnecessarily. You meet pain with purpose. You meet joy with gratitude. You meet life as it is. This is how you begin to walk differently. Not faster, but lighter. Not louder, but truer. And when people ask, "How do you stay so calm?" you smile softly and answer, "Because I stopped trying to control the waves. I learned to sail." You realize now that peace is not found at the end of struggle. It's found within it. It's not a place, it's a way of being. You stop chasing the horizon. You start walking the ground beneath your feet. You start forgiving, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. You start letting go, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. And as you do, you feel lighter. You feel whole. You understand that the meaning of life was never hidden. It was always in how you live, how you choose to see, how you choose to love despite the pain. The Stoics didn't promise happiness. They promised resilience. And you have become that promise made flesh. Now you walk through life like a mountain, weathered, but unmoved. The winds howl, but you stand firm. The world shifts, but you remain grounded. You've become both soft and strong, both gentle and unbreakable, both humble and infinite. You've learned that real power is quiet. It doesn't need to be seen. It simply is. And when night comes again, as it always does, you no longer fear it. You sit beneath the stars and whisper gratitude, because you finally understand you were never in the dark. You were the light, learning to see yourself. You close your eyes, and there is no chaos. Only peace, only breath, only you. Whole, free, awake, and the voice within you, the one that once trembled, now speaks softly, clearly, like a friend. You have become who you were meant to be. A soul steady in the storm, a heart unafraid of the night, a mind unchained by fear. And now, you are ready to live. This is wisdom. You carry it like quiet fire in your chest, not to burn others, but to light the way. And people begin to notice, not your success, not your status, but your stillness. They feel it when you walk into a room. The calm, the depth, the strength of someone who has known darkness and made peace with it. You speak less now, because you've realized wisdom doesn't need to shout. It listens, it observes, it waits. You've stopped explaining yourself to those who don't listen, stopped arguing with those who don't seek truth, stopped expecting understanding from those who've never met themselves. And in that release, you find freedom. You walk lighter, you breathe deeper, you love cleaner. The person you once were, the one lost in fear, in noise, in constant wanting, feels like a shadow fading behind you. You don't hate them, you thank them. They were the seed, you are the bloom. And life, it keeps testing you, not to break you anymore, but to measure what you've become. When loss visits again, you bow your head and whisper, "Teach me." When pain returns, you breathe through it and say, "I've been here before." When the world turns cold, you remember you are your own warmth. This is mastery, to no longer need the world, to be at peace, to find calm within chaos. Epictetus said, "Circumstances don't make the man, they only reveal him to himself." And the man you have met within is not weak, not broken, not lost. He is still. He is disciplined. He is free. You've realized that life is not about avoidance. It's about engagement, to stand in the storm, fully present, to feel the cold rain, and still be grateful for the sky. Because you understand now, everything you resist persists. Everything you accept transforms. So you no longer fight the river, you flow with it. You trust that every bend, every turn, leads you where you're meant to go. You no longer demand answers. You live the questions. And somehow, in this surrender, you have found strength greater than certainty. You begin to smile again, not the smile of denial, but of knowing, a smile that says, "I am enough even in this moment." You wake again, but this time the silence is different. It no longer feels empty, it feels alive. You've crossed through darkness. You've burned, broken, healed, and something sacred has awakened within you. It's quiet, calm, unshakable. This is not the peace of escape, it's the peace of mastery. You have stopped running from your shadow, and now you walk beside it. The same pain that once crushed you now stands as your companion. It whispers reminders, not regrets. It no longer screams for attention. It simply is, and you accept it. You move through the day slower now. You notice the way the morning light touches the walls. You hear the wind, as if it's speaking in a language you once forgot. The world didn't change. You did. You have become aware of life's rhythm, its pulse beneath everything, the rise, the fall, the stillness between. And in that stillness, you meet yourself again, not as a wounded soul, but as a quiet force of nature. Marcus Aurelius said, "Look well into yourself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if you will always look." Now you understand that strength isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It exists in how you rise from the floor, how you smile when no one notices, how you breathe through another day. Without bitterness, the fire within you is no longer wild. It is controlled, disciplined, focused. You've learned that true mastery is not in controlling others, but in controlling the storm within. You no longer react, you respond. No longer crave, you choose. No longer chase, you attract. Through stillness, you see now that peace is not passive. It is the hardest battle of all. To remain calm when chaos surrounds you. To remain kind when the world is cruel. To remain open when you've been hurt. That is strength. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it, and you have wasted enough. On fear, on doubt, on chasing what was never meant for you. Now you give your time to what matters, to growth, to truth, to simplicity. You no longer need to prove your worth. You've seen what happens. When you live to impress others, you lose yourself. But when you live to express truth, you find peace. You are not perfect. You are aware, and awareness is the beginning of freedom. You've begun to see your emotions differently now, not as enemies, but as visitors. Anger knocks. You listen. Fear whispers. You nod. Sadness sits beside you. You share silence. You've learned to let them pass without building a home for them. Steady, because peace is not given. It's practiced daily in how you breathe, how you forgive, how you let go. The Stoics spoke of Epictetus, freedom from destructive emotion. You are learning this not by suppression, but by stillness, by watching your anger rise and letting it pass, by feeling fear and moving forward anyway. You have become a student of your own mind, a guardian of your own peace, a keeper of your own flame. And as the world continues its endless motion, you remain grounded, centered, alive. You've stopped fighting the current. You've learned to flow, not with indifference, but with wisdom, because you've seen enough to know. Everything comes and everything goes. Only your character stays. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." And now, you no longer seek to appear wise. You seek to live wisely, quietly, humbly. You do not boast of growth. You embody it. You do not chase validation. You outgrow it. You've realized that silence is power, that patience is strength, that kindness is not weakness. It's mastery. So when life tests you, you breathe, you observe, you endure, because you've walked through enough storms to know nothing external can break you unless you let it inside. You carry your pain differently now, not as a burden, but as armor, not as shame, but as proof. Proof that you have lived, that you have felt, that you are still here despite it all, and that is your victory. You don't need applause. You don't need recognition. You don't need anyone to understand, because you do, and that is enough. You move through the world now with a quiet fire, the kind that doesn't destroy, but transforms. And when others ask you how you survived, you smile gently and say, "I stopped running," because everything you sought outside was waiting within. You've become the steady flame in your own darkness, the calm beneath your own storm, the peace after your own war. And as you walk forward now, you carry no bitterness, no regret, only gratitude for the pain that shaped you, for the silence that taught you, for the strength that was born from everything you thought would break you. You are not who you were. You are something greater, simpler, truer. You have seen the world and chosen to stay kind. You have faced despair and chosen to hope. You have met loss and chosen to love again. That is mastery. That is victory. That is peace. And when your final day comes, you will meet it without fear, because you will know you lived with courage. You suffered with purpose. You endured with grace. And that is enough. You are enough, because every scar on your soul is a reminder you survived, and survival is sacred. You've begun to understand that life is not measured in pleasure or success, but in resilience, in how often you fell and still chose to rise. You no longer wish for an easy path. You wish for strength, because an easy path makes weak hearts. And you are done being fragile. The universe has broken you many times, But each time, you have returned sharper, simpler, truer. And now when life hits, you smile softly and whisper, "Thank you. You will not break me this time, because what once shattered you now shapes you. What once scared you now strengthens you. You've learned the rhythm of pain, the rise, the fall, the stillness between. You know that every winter ends, and every dawn begins in darkness, so you no longer curse the night. You sit with it, you breathe with it, you learn from it. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." So you choose your response with grace, with patience, with wisdom. You've stopped expecting the world to be fair. You've started striving to be fair within yourself, to live with integrity, even when no one sees, to speak truth, even when your voice trembles. You've realized the only true victory is self-mastery. And so you wake each morning and face the mirror, not to fix your reflection, but to meet your soul. You ask yourself, what kind of person will I be today? And quietly, you answer, in that stillness, you began to rebuild, not from ego, but from essence. You stopped needing validation. You stopped chasing love that didn't want to stay. You stopped running from solitude, because solitude became sacred. You started walking through life with quieter steps, but deeper roots. You understood that everything external, wealth, power, admiration, is fragile. It can be taken in a moment, but virtue, character, and peace, those are yours alone. Marcus wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." So you stopped trying to change the world and began changing your thoughts. You started to see obstacles not as curses, but as paths. Pain not as punishment, but as proof of life. And fate not as an enemy, but as a mirror. You began to whisper, "Amor fati," love of fate, to not merely accept what happens, but to embrace it, as though you chose it. This is freedom. Not the freedom to do what you want, but the freedom to want what is. You walk through your days differently now. Still storms rage around you, but your heart is steady. Still people disappoint you, but your peace is not theirs to break. Because you have learned, the world is not cruel or kind. It simply is, and how you meet it defines your life. You've stopped asking, "Why me?" and started asking, "What now?" Every sunrise now feels like a chance, not for perfection, but for presence. You breathe deeper. You forgive more easily. You hold less. You live slower. Because somewhere along the way, you realized life isn't about winning. It's about being, and being fully, truthfully, courageously, is enough. You no longer seek to be unshaken. You seek to be grounded, to feel every moment without drowning in it. You have learned to let go, not because you stopped caring, but because you started understanding what is meant will remain, what leaves was never yours, and what breaks was not built to last. You have become the calm in your own chaos. You have become the observer, not the storm. And this is peace. It's not the loud, ecstatic kind. It's the quiet knowing that whatever comes, you will meet it with strength. You will endure, as you always have. You realize now that Stoicism was never about being emotionless. It was about being unenslaved by emotion, to feel deeply, but not be destroyed by feeling. You are allowed to hurt. You are allowed to cry, but you are not allowed to quit. You wake up one morning, and something inside you is quiet. Not peaceful, just quiet. A silence that doesn't comfort you, but confronts you. You feel the weight of your own existence, pressing softly, reminding you that you've been asleep, not just in bed, but in life. You used to run from that silence, fill it with noise, people, distractions, endless movement. But now, there's nowhere to run. And for the first time, you listen. You hear your breath. You feel your pulse. You realize how fragile, and yet how unbreakable, you truly are. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." And in this silence, you begin to see what he meant. The world can crush your plans, but it cannot touch your will unless you hand it over. You remember the moments that broke you, the faces that left, the dreams that faded before your eyes. You thought you'd never recover, but here you are, still breathing. You realize the pain didn't destroy you, it sculpted you. Every heartbreak, every loss, was a chisel against your soul, shaping you into someone stronger, someone still standing. Seneca said, "Fire tests gold, suffering tests brave men." And you have walked through the fire. The flames burned your illusions away. They took what you thought you needed. They stripped you of comfort, of certainty, of everything false. But beneath the ashes, you found something real. You found yourself. It's not the pain that defines you, it's how you carry it, with stillness, with dignity, with that quiet strength no one sees. But you feel it, rising inside. You've spent years seeking peace in the world. But peace was never out there. It was waiting within you, buried under noise and fear and want. The Stoics knew this. They walked among emperors and slaves, and saw that both suffered the same. Because the real battle is not against others, but within. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And in your pain, you understand this truth. Mastery isn't about control. It's about surrender, not to weakness, but to reality, to accept what is, without complaint. The storm comes. You cannot stop it, but you can stand tall in the rain. You can breathe through the chaos. You can whisper to yourself, "This too is within me." There was a time when you thought strength meant never breaking. Now you see, strength is breaking, and still choosing to rise. You remember the nights when your heart felt hollow, when you stared at the ceiling, wondering what the point of all this pain was. And now you know. The point was transformation. The point was becoming. Pain was not punishment. It was the teacher. It showed you who you were without the mask. It revealed what you can endure. It forced you to meet yourself, alone and honest.